Hi there. Sorry I was taking care of some serious business. Speaking of serious business, please enjoy this clip from Mornings with Mike Winters, which, by the way, you can watch the show in its entirety at roswellstalkfm.com.
Joining us in studio this morning from Builders Do It Center is Justin Ellis. Buenos dias. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
I'd like to throw in Spanish words every once in a while, just to prove that I don't know Spanish.
Absolutely, yeah. I've got pretty good hardware store Spanish. I can't speak the language, but I will randomly throw a pintura in somewhere. Or, I can count to about 20, 25 pretty efficiently, and anything other than that, I'm well out of my depth.
I need ocho nails.
Necesito ocho clavos. That's about all I got.
You got it. And donde está el baño? Got that one.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah, good bar Spanish, too. Hardware store and bar Spanish. Absolutely.
Order a beer and find the bathroom. I'm good to go.
Dos cervezas, por favor. Más fría.
And I can ask where the library is. I learned that one, too.
Dos cervezas y más tequila.
Yeah, más tequila, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's universal, that word, I think. Even though it does come from...
And keep her coming.
Vidi, she's Oh, okay.
And she's correcting the fact that her Spanish is horrible. As well she should.
Right. Very good. Well, for folks that have not tuned into previous episodes of our Builders Do It Center segments, you can go back and check them out. I know Builders Do It Center has not a Facebook page, a YouTube page. They have a Facebook page.
We do have a Facebook page.
But
and the videos are also on the Facebook page.
They'll link there, but probably the most centralized place to find them all is the YouTube page.
Absolutely.
And you can go back. There's probably I don't know. Is there a dozen there yet?
I think we're at least that.
We're in that ballpark.
We've been doing this.
It's been a year?
It'll be a year in February?
So we're right about 12 then.
February or March.
Perfect. Time is flying by. But
Yeah.
each month it's different things. And we've talked about finding contractors. We've talked about plumbing stuff, sprinkler systems, decks, tile floors. We've talked about a lot of different issues. So chances are you'll probably find, if you're doing any home improvement projects, you'll probably find a video already related to something you're looking to do there at the Builders Do It Center YouTube page. But a new one today, talking about stucco. We haven't talked about stucco yet, and I would say probably 90% of people have some form of stucco on their home in this community.
In this area, I would. That's probably a little high. It's probably in the high 80s, mid 80s, because you do still have a lot of brick homes and some stone homes, and there's a handful of folks with siding, wood siding, or fiber cement siding.
Yeah.
But even a lot of folks that have brick homes will still have a little bit of stucco.
There'll be one wall
stucco
or something.
fence or a wall or an addition that was done in stucco. Lots of times you'll see the chimney on a home is done in stucco because it's so much easier to plaster that than it is to get up there and set brick on a roof. So. Yeah, and at some point, if you live in southeast New Mexico or anywhere in New Mexico, West Texas, anywhere in the Southwest, you're going to end up with a stucco home or a stucco structure you're probably responsible for.
Sure.
So it's a very common material, and it's a very historically common material. You look at stucco or lath and plaster, which is the same thing, it's just another name for stucco, and it works in our market. We've always had plentiful sand.
Sure.
And the other materials that are used to make stucco or plaster are fairly easy to transport. And so in an area where trees were hard to come by, where we don't have any natural clay deposits to make clay brick out of, stucco was the go-to material for many, many years.
I like it.
And still is
Yeah.
because of the labor issues. So, yeah, and it's a beautiful product.
To be honest, because this is well documented. I grew up back in Maryland, East Coast. Brick is universal. I think every community, there's brick homes. They are popular. But obviously stucco, not so much there. There you'll see like the aluminum siding. Not so much vinyl. They're a little too far south for vinyl. If you get up New England area, they go there, vinyl. But a lot of aluminum siding. And be honest, I grew up in a house that had aluminum siding. I hate aluminum siding. I see houses that have aluminum siding, and I'm just like, ugh. I don't want nothing to do with it. Maybe it's because I grew up in that, but so stucco to me is a nice change. I like this. I own a stucco house. I'm moving to a stucco house. I like stucco. That look is when it's kept up, it looks excellent. It looks great.
And that's the key. Stucco is a great low maintenance exterior wall material, but you really have to make sure that you get it properly installed if you're doing new construction, and you have to maintain it. If you don't maintain it, you will have issues, and when you have issues with stucco, small issues left unattended very big problems.
Sure.
The first thing to think about with stucco, and you actually said something in the opening, was that eventually all stucco cracks.
Yeah.
And that's very, very true. One of the things we've always talked about with folks is that stucco will crack, period. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how much cracking and when it'll do it. And that's just a function of the material.
Sure.
If you think about stucco, all the base coat on stucco really is 3/8 to 3/4 of an inch thick concrete slab hung on a wall.
Right. That's
It's gonna-
basically it.
It's gonna crack. So
And it succumbs to pressure and everything else on it. It's and like houses settle. I mean, you don't see that so much around here, but some houses do settle an inch or two, and when that happens, it shifts, and then it causes that stucco to crack.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And a lot of that cracking has absolutely nothing to do with the movement of the building behind it. Now, sometimes it does, but even a home that doesn't move at all, you're going to still end up with some cracking because, kind of going back to that, it's concrete. Concrete moves. It gets hot, cold.
Spans, contracts.
Exactly. And so you're going to end up with some cracking, and that's okay. It's supposed to do that. It's intended to do that. So you really want to think about how to maintain it. Now, maintaining stucco is pretty straightforward. Number one is clean it from time to time. And a garden hose will do that job just fine. Now, cleaning it has no impact on the long-term durability of the product. It just makes it look better.
Well, and that's something I've noticed, too, before we get into the cracks, is like if you look at homes, and it doesn't matter what color the stucco is, it seems like if you get mud or things towards the bottom, you'll see like a discoloration, and it'll look like say, I'll just pick brown, because that's a pretty common stucco color. You get like a brown or tan stucco, it seems like that the bottom, I don't know, foot of the house or so looks like it's faded a little bit or something like that. And I'm assuming it's just from mud and things like that, but it almost looks like it stains it a little bit.
So you get 3 or 4 different reasons that the stucco color coat discolors. And to start with, stucco is basically made up of 3 components. There's a lath, which is metal, either wire or expanded metal that's hung on the wall that provides a framework. There's a base coat that allows the contractor to level the wall out, and there's a finish coat on top of that. And there's some more intricacies to that, but the finish coat comes in one of a couple of varieties. So there are cement-based finish coats, which were very common up until the early 90s. They're and are still available and are still a very good product. There are acrylic finishes, which are a hard synthetic finish, and can be either applied with a trowel when they're textured or with a roller, and they're basically just a paint, an acrylic paint.
Okay.
Or you can use an elastomeric finish. Elastomeric means that it will stretch and move. Now, elastomerics are great over stucco, going back to the whole stucco cracks. Elastomerics don't crack, they move.
Sure.
And so when you get that small cracking, an elastomeric will actually just stretch and cover it. And elastomerics also come in both trowel-applied textured products and roller-applied paint products for both restoration and new construction. So those products stain and discolor for different reasons. The synthetics and both the acrylics and the elastomerics, when they discolor, it tends to be because of sun.
Okay.
So sun and time they just degrade the color of that like they would any paint product.
Sure.
And so you do get a little of that, and that's not going to show in patches typically. That's going to be when you go to try to patch the wall, and the patch doesn't quite match. And that's why whenever we talk about painting or patching stucco, we often talk about working corner to corner, meaning you want to work an entire wall. Even if you only need to fix a small area, you want to paint the entire wall, because once you go around a corner, the eye can't really pick up the difference as well. And so it appears to be a lot more attractive than a block painted in the middle of the wall that's an eighth of a shade off.
Right.
And it's virtually impossible to match that color. So you really want to keep that in mind, working corner to corner, if you're dealing with a discoloration that comes from sun. The other 2 common causes of discoloration are staining. You were talking about now this happens more on light-colored walls, and you see it down towards the bottom, especially if there's no sidewalk, and so you're directly adjoining dirt, especially if it's red dirt. We have some red clay soils around here, and especially as you go towards Texas, they have lots of red clay soils. Red clay soils will stain primarily Portland cement-based finishes, because Portland cement-based finishes will absorb and allow things to pass through them, and so as that dirt splashes upon them, it can stain it.
Gotcha.
And so unfortunately, there's not any great way to protect that aside from applying a clear sealer, which you can absolutely do.
Sure. Or just, I guess, go with a darker color that hides it better.
That's one option.
Yeah.
If you clean it regularly, it'll help. The simplest way to protect it is to get some concrete down there.
Okay.
An apron sidewalk is intended to protect that wall from just that.
Okay.
The second most common cause is a phenomenon called efflorescence. And if you look at a stucco wall that's a dark color, it kind of has some white staining on it, almost looks like hard water stains. You also see this on concrete or even on masonry, anything that has a Portland cement and sand component to it. Efflorescence is actually chemicals and minerals in the sand that are actually bleeding out.
Okay.
You get this on many finishes, but they will come through the wall and accumulate on the surface as that water dries. And that's what it is. That water that's moving through that wall is carrying those minerals to the surface and then is passing out.
Okay.
Now, one of the things to keep in mind with stucco if you're doing new construction is you have to worry about managing that water because by definition, stucco is what's called a reservoir cladding, which means that it holds moisture. So brick, stone, and stucco are reservoir claddings, and when they get rain on them or they get hit by a sprinkler, they're not going to immediately repel that water like a metal siding or even a wood siding with a paint on it will. They will hold moisture, and so you need to manage to develop a way to get that moisture out. Now, that moisture is going to naturally move down and out away from the wall, which is why when you see efflorescence, you mentioned a dark-colored stucco that at the bottom appears to be stained. That's because that water's moving down across that wall before it comes out and evaporates, and that's why you tend to get more efflorescence at the bottom of a wall than at the top.
Gotcha. Okay.
In our area, efflorescence is not as big an issue as some areas. The good news is efflorescence is very easy to deal with. You can clean it off. There's a couple of different products that we sell that will clean that efflorescence off, and then if you want to repaint, you can use a product called F-Stop. EFF stop
Okay.
as a primer, and F-Stop is specifically intended to keep those minerals from moving through that wall.
Okay.
And so it will help prevent some of that issue.
Sure. Now, say you do some of these sealant type things, and then you decide you want to paint later. I mean, does it make it trickier to do that, or can you just paint over top of that stuff?
It depends on the sealer, but by and large, we don't generally recommend sealing stucco. It's such a unique situation where you need to, and it can create issues with refinishing down the road. Plus, it frankly makes it appear different than the rest of the stucco.
So
and
give it
it's
like a sheen
expensive.
or something on it? Or?
Not necessarily. It just can change the way it fades.
Okay.
So all exterior finishes, and this is true of wood, metal, shingles, if you put anything out in the UV sun and you get as much UV exposure as we do in New Mexico, it's going to fade some.
Sure.
And so it's about managing that fade so that it's consistent, because the eye can't pick up the fact that it's faded because it has no reference.
Gotcha.
One of the things that's important to remember about color is it's not about color, it's about color perception. It's about what we think of color and how we see color.
Sure.
And so in many cases, when someone says, well, that's not the right color, that's not really accurate. It means it doesn't look like the right color to me.
Sure.
It may or may not be the right color, and what they think is the right color may not be the right color.
So is this kind of going back to those stupid dresses on Facebook? Like, does it look blue and green or yellow and red or whatever it was?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's about color perception.
Yeah.
And color perception is affected by a lot of things other than the actual color. There's a scientific definition of color. There's I used to actually know this, but I don't remember now, but some art teacher is going to call in and go, you fools, why don't you know this? But there's three values that define what a color appears to be: hue, chroma, and something else that I should know. And that defines the color, but there's lots of things that affect how we perceive that same color.
Okay.
Some of it is our eyes. Some of it is the light that's showing on that. So that's why colors will look different under fluorescent light versus incandescent light versus sunlight. And some of it's things like texture. And this is one of the things that makes stucco notoriously difficult to color match. It's because stucco has texture to it. And
Sure.
texture throws
Absorbs.
shadows, and it changes the way we perceive color. And so anytime you're patching stucco and trying to match color, you need to come up with you need to decide one of two things. Either I'm going to repaint everything and I'm going to recoat everything and make it all match one color, which is probably the best way, or I'm okay with the fact that it's not going to match perfectly and I just want to get as close as I possibly can.
Because at the end of the day, paint, we've talked about this before, is protecting that surface.
Absolutely.
I mean, the color and the decorative part's the added part, but at the end of the day, you're protecting the surface with the paint.
Absolutely.
So
and
some paint's better than no paint.
Exactly, yeah. And we would always recommend recoating from corner to corner. Painting stucco is not particularly hard, and it's a very common step in stucco repair. And the biggest question you have to figure out is whether you want an elastomeric or an acrylic. We always recommend an elastomeric because of those stretching qualities and the fact that it will help cover up other issues. The other tricks to keep in mind when painting stucco is that you want to clean it very good first, just like any exterior paint job. We've talked about that before. You want to make sure you deal with any efflorescence if there is. You want to prime any areas that are raw cement. So if you've gone back in and patched some cracks or patched some holes, you want to prime those before you paint the whole surface. Because that concrete or that cement is absorbative, it will suck moisture out of that finish, and it's going to make it appear different.
Sure, you can see the crack still just in the
exactly.
A darker
but if you
or
prime
lighter.
them first and then paint the whole surface, you'll get a much more even finish.
Smooth.
Just like painting new drywall. We've talked about whenever you're painting new drywall, you want to use a new construction sealer.
Sure.
This is a very similar application for the same reasons. Now, you don't want to use that new construction sealer. It's not intended for that. There's other primers for it. But then you want to work from corner to corner. You want to you want to be able to work that whole area in one session.
Okay.
So you want to have a wet edge the entire time, because otherwise you're likely to get color variations, even if you're working out of the same bucket of paint. But if you start a wall in the morning and you do half of it before lunch and half of it in the afternoon, you may be able to tell the difference just because of the small variations in sunshine and many other things, and the fact that you stopped. It'll actually make a difference. So that's one factor to keep in mind. The other thing is you want to make sure that wall is warm enough. Every coating has a recommended application range in terms of temperature. You want to make sure you check that and look at what range temperatures you're working in. If you put something on the wall that's going to freeze, that's a problem.
Sure.
You could have major issues. So you want to be highly cognizant of that.
Ideally, you got to know, and I think if people lived in a house long enough, they know when the sun's in the front or in the back or the side.
Yeah.
So that's that you just pick if you're painting your whole house, you just pick the order in which wall you paint first by where the sun's at, basically.
Well, and actually, you don't want to work in the direct sun either. So it's kind of a balancing act.
Gotcha.
You don't want to work in the direct sun because that's going to dry that paint too quickly.
So get a lot of friends, and at exactly noon, everyone start painting.
Yeah. It's going to vary from home to home. The best way to do it is to do it in the summer in the morning when you don't have dew.
Right.
So you're not dealing with any moisture on the wall, but do it at a time of day where you have indirect sunlight. So there's sun on it, and it's bright, so you can see what's going on, and the wall's not cold.
Sure.
But where you don't have direct sunlight, because at that point, you take a stucco wall in New Mexico in direct sunlight, and it's going to be 90, 100, 120 degrees if it's a dark color. When you're putting the paint on that, it's literally cooking the water out of it, and that's going to affect the finish. And that's true whether you're painting stucco or brick or any other material outside. I mean, that's always a really critical thing. Anytime we have issues with somebody doing a paint project in the summer and they come back and they say, well, I put the paint on and it dried and now it's just fish-eyeing or it's peeling off, and we go, well, how hot was the wall when you put it on? When you were painting on it with your right hand, was the stuff at your left hand dry already? Well, yeah, there's your problem. It never adhered. It just dried and peeled right off.
Right.
So
you got to get
that's
that
something to
optimal
keep in
window.
mind.
So now, when it comes to actually the crack portion, we've kind of talked a lot about the paint and things, but like you said, stress cracks, age. I mean, like you said, it's gonna crack at some point or another. Obviously, just because you see one crack, it's not time to restucco the whole wall necessarily.
Absolutely not.
But before we talk about actually fixing the cracks, what's the good determination of, okay, we repair cracks first, we just need to restucco this wall?
So restucco depends on what you mean. So there's recoat, which you may want to do if you want the appearance to change, if you want to change the color, or if you've got patches or cracks in many areas.
Right.
Restuccoing in the sense that you're going to yank everything off and start again, you have to have a pretty bad situation. You have to have massive cracking, or the lath underneath has to be failing. That's a pretty serious situation. Most folks are just going to run into a situation where they need to do some patching and then apply some sort of a refinish or a recoat product.
Okay.
So basically, we want to break anything, whether it's a crack or a hole in stucco, kind of falls into one of three categories in terms of the repair. And we're going to start with the hard one and go to the easy one. So the hard one is things where that stucco is cracked all the way through, or fallen away, or been damaged all the way through to that lath that's underlying it. Now, if the lath's still in good condition, what you're going to have to do is go back with a 2-layer patch. So put some patch that's going to cover that lath that's the base coat, and then a finish coat to restore the texture to look like whatever's around it.
Okay.
And you may be able to do that with whatever was used originally to make the color be similar.
Sure.
If you're okay with an okay patch as opposed to a perfect patch, or wanting the whole wall to be consistent. Now, if the lath itself's damaged, you're going to have to think about cutting that lath out and relathing that portion of the wall using expanded metal lath, something along those lines. And that's a very common thing, especially at corners. You know, if the corner bead is damaged, you're going to have to cut out a portion of that corner, replace the corner bead, so that you make sure you have good support for the stucco you're replacing it with. So those are very uncommon. If basically only 1 or 2 situations is going to necessitate a repair that bad. Either
something hit it,
which is the most common. Somebody ran into the wall, and it takes a lot of impact to damage stucco. Hitting it with a baseball is not going to do it.
Okay.
It's going to take
a car.
Even then, we've seen stucco walls where somebody's backed into them, and it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage depending on how they're built.
Okay.
And how fast somebody was going. If you're just going, 3 miles an hour backing out of your garage and you bump into your cinder block stucco fence,
you're just going to mess up your car.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to do way more damage to your vehicle than it will to that wall.
Right.
But we've had folks. It actually happened to us twice in 1 year at our store. Somebody was backing out and forgot to throw it in reverse before they backed out and gunned it and drove the nose of the vehicle through the wall. In that case, you've got some structural repairs. That's a little bigger deal to deal with.
Sure.
But something like that is the most common reason to need to do those repairs. So that definitely happens. The other reason is because you've had some kind of a water intrusion issue over a very long period of time that's caused rust, and that's when you may want to look at, okay, I may need to tear out a big chunk of this and restucco it.
Sure, because you got more issues.
Exactly, because you may have sheathing damage
or
exactly. So that's kind of the 2 most common reasons for that. Other than that, you tend to fall into one of the 2 other areas of damage, which is small cracks and holes. And this is, in a crack, it's anything under, a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. If it's a hole, it's anything the size of a baseball or smaller that does not go through to the lath. In that case, you're just trying to restore it and make it flat again. Now, with a crack, you have to keep in mind, is this a crack that's going to happen again? Because I have some movement in my foundation, in which case you need to think about doing something about the foundation. But if you're not in a position to do anything about foundation movement, or it's not a major issue but you want to address it, you're going to want to caulk or patch that crack with something flexible. We have a number of caulking products that are flexible that can be top coated that work very well. If it's not something that's going to move, so if it's just a small area that's gotten a crack in it or a hole in it for whatever reason, and you want to patch it, there are pre-mixed stucco patches.
Okay.
I've got one with me here that's made by DAP, who's a maker of caulking and a lot of other products. It's a very good product. It's textured. You can make it work to look like whatever you have, and it works quite well. It's very convenient because it's pre-mixed. Now, if you have a lot of area, you may want to look at using something like fast wall sanded, which is the same base coat we use in new construction. It's already got sand in it. You have to mix water with it, but it's less expensive if you have a large area.
Sure.
It's actually a little bit better product. It adheres better.
But this is small patchwork
But
stuff.
a small patch, this is fantastic.
You don't need a big 40-pound bag of something to fix 3 little
And you don't have to mix water with it. You just have to have a putty knife and make it work. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, in either case, you want to think about priming that crack prior to patching it. There are a number of products that are used as stucco or masonry or concrete primers. The slang term in the construction industry is leche, going back to our Spanish, because it looks like milk.
Okay.
And what this is it's a primer. You want to apply it to the crack and let it dry. And you actually want to add a little bit to your patch if you're mixing patch. If it's a pre-mixed product, you don't need to take that step. But if you're mixing something to put in it, you want to think about adding some of that leche or primer to it. And that's going to help that adhesion so that you don't patch it and then have whatever you put in that crack fall out.
Okay.
Which happens. Bonding to cement-based surfaces is notoriously hard. Once you've got that product in there and you've got it patched, and it may take multiple lifts, meaning multiple layers to get it right. You don't want to. You're better off putting a little bit 3 times than a lot 1 time, because you're A, going to get a better surface, and B, you're going to be less likely to have that product come out of the wall.
Okay.
Texture's the next big thing. You really want to think about making that texture look good. And so you're going to use whatever tool. Unfortunately, in this case, we can help guide you a little bit if you have a picture of the wall into the best thing. The 2 most common finishes around here are either a sand finish, in which case you're going to use a sponge float. And I actually brought one with me but left it in my bucket over here. or you're going to have what's called a pull-down finish, where basically it looks like somebody's just yanked a piece of that texture down the wall, and that's exactly what they've done. You can use a sponge trowel for that, or a sponge float for that, or a trowel of some kind. There's everything in between. Stucco is a very pliable material, and over the years, different applicators have different ways of putting it on. I was actually just talking to a contractor yesterday. He's working on a job in Dexter that a plaster did this job probably 40 or 50 years ago, and it was a gentleman named Ellis Stiles did it. And Ellis Stiles Lath and Plaster, for our folks that are born and raised here in Roswell, are probably familiar with LC. He did half the stucco in Roswell and was a world-class plasterer. His son Larry now runs one of the funeral homes here in town. But
Ballard, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So LC had done this job in Dexter in the 40s or 50s, and he managed to make this stucco look like carved stone.
Okay.
So you're going to end up with some unique things. We always have folks come in and they're like, can I buy this product? And I go, no, but you can make it on the wall. Let me kind of, there's some experimentation to it. So keep that in mind when you start.
Well, you get to artistic mode there, and then art, you know how that works. 10 people see 10 different things with it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And good plasters kind of are artists. There's not many out there that still do things that way, unfortunately. So if you're trying to patch a unique finish, be patient. Take your time, step back, and realize that you're not looking for perfect, you're looking for good enough.
Well, maybe you could even practice it on something else first, and then kind of get the technique, and then when you feel comfortable with it, try it on the actual surface.
Absolutely. Well, and the good news is all these products take time to dry. It's not like something where it's going to dry on you instantly. So you can start putting that product in and play with it a little bit to get the look you want.
Gotcha.
Before it's going to harden up on you, which is good. And that's definitely something you want to keep in mind.
Sure, definitely.
So,
but like you said, it's everything's to the eye of the beholder. But at the end of the day, this is pretty simple stuff.
It really is. This is a good basic project for most folks.
It's not out of most. I mean, if you kind of, especially if you're one of those folks that like to play with Play-Doh and clay when you were kids. And all
this
that.
is really going to fall in your wheelhouse.
It's kind of it's easy to do that, but I guess the trick is doing the prep work right, doing it in the right optimal temperatures and things like that.
Cleaning is very critical to that prep work. If you're working with a crack or a hole, you want to take a wire brush or a stiff bristled brush to it. Anything that's not permanent, that's going to come off with a brush, needs to come off, because otherwise it's just going to fall off with the weight of the patch.
Sure.
So, and once you've patched it, then you can think about top coating, going back to using a trowel applied finish or a paint type product, whether that's elastomeric or not.
Sure.
That third category of damage that we talked about is small cracks. So we refer to them as hairline cracks.
Okay.
These are cracks that are the natural ones in stucco that happen simply as a function of this being a concrete slab hung on a wall. And the way you deal with those is you coat them with an elastomeric.
Okay.
The elastomeric will bridge cracks up. Let me rephrase that. Good elastomerics will bridge cracks up to 1/8 of an inch, sometimes even a little bit bigger, which anything over 1/8 of an inch is probably not a hairline expansion crack. It's probably something else.
Sure.
And they will actually move with those cracks, because you may go and look at that wall and it may have a bunch of little cracks today. Well, you might go back on a warm day and those cracks may appear to be gone. And that's because that wall is expanding and contracting.
Yeah.
If you paint them with a traditional paint like an acrylic that's not elastomeric, whenever that wall shrinks back up, those cracks are just going to carry through to the paint. With an elastomeric, that coating is actually going to move and continue to cover those cracks and protect the wall and look better.
Gotcha.
So in our recommendation, regardless of what the start of a project is, the finish of any stucco project is applying an elastomeric coating. That is on a stucco-based or a cement-based stucco finish. It's the right way to do it.
Sure.
And it's not that expensive.
And at the end of the day, it probably saves you tons of repair, fading, all those things down the road.
Absolutely. And it'll look much better. And if you're there's two ways to look at this. If you're repairing this because it's your home and you're going to be in it for quite a while, then you're protecting the surface. If you're doing it because you need to get the home in condition to sell, or it's a flip or a rental or something like that.
Maybe not. Maybe recommend they do it.
No, I'd still recommend they do it, because then it's going to be more attractive and make it easier to sell, that sort of thing. It's a very cheap improvement in the grand scheme of things.
Curb appeal is a great cheap way to do it.
And if it's your home, then you get great curb appeal too, and it's just more attractive every time you drive down your driveway.
Now, I mean, when we talk about, obviously you can put the sealant on any time, or the acrylic here, I call it sealant, but in essence, that's kind of what it is.
It is.
Is there, like I said, we talk about cleaning the surface and all that, because whatever's on there, you're sealing in essence.
Yes.
as far as like the paint, I mean, do you like if your paint's already looking kind of like we were talking about the fades and things like that, you probably want to fix that before you put this over that, right? You don't.
Well, you want to look at a couple of things. Anything you're top coating, whether it's with an elastomeric or an acrylic, it's the same rules as painting wood or anything else. It needs to be, whatever you're coating over has to be solid.
Right.
And so you want to look at it, and if the whole wall appears to be in good shape and maybe you have a few little areas, that's when scraping those or using a brush. Brush tends to work better on stucco, a stiff bristled brush, because you can get in all the little cracks and gaps. Will do the job. If the whole wall appears to have issues, if it's peeling and cracking in a great many places, pressure wash it. It's a great way to start. If it comes off with a pressure washer, then it needed to come off. If it doesn't come off with a pressure washer, paint right over it, you're not going to have problems.
Gotcha. Very good.
Yep.
So, we're running a little short on time. We got about 10 minutes before Rush starts kicking on here. If anybody has any questions about anything we're talking about here, or we just sound like we were talking Chinese to you here a little bit, and you got a stucco project, come on down to Builders Do It Center. Take lots of pictures. You say this every time.
Every time.
Pictures.
Samples.
Yeah.
If you need a color match, bring a sample. The bigger the sample, the better.
Yeah.
With stucco, you're going to need a piece at least the size of $50 to get a reasonably good color match. And a bigger piece is better, and flatter is better.
Sure.
So,
but even like you were talking texture, like if you have that older, maybe you have an older home that has some of the designs and things on the stucco, and you're kind of questioning about that. Like,
please do.
Bring it down, and you can tell them, well, obviously you're going to probably tell them you're going to do that yourself, but at least here's the stuff you need to do that
We can give you some general guidance. That's absolutely right. The other thing to keep in mind when we're talking about matching color with stucco, and I actually just forgot about this completely, Dunn Edwards, who's our primary paint line, has an application that goes on your phone that will actually analyze the color in a picture. Now, this is pretty good for anything. If you're thinking about paints and you just want to kind of think about matching colors, go to the Google Play Store or the Android or the Apple store. I'm not an Apple guy, so I'd probably iTunes. I'm a little slow on the uptake. There's a version for both operating systems. Look up Dunn Edwards, DUNNEDWARDS. There's a paint application. You can download that to your phone, and it will analyze a photo you take. This works very well in stucco because you can take a picture of the whole wall, and that takes a little bit of the texture out of it. Gotcha. But you want to make sure you're not doing it in the shade, you're not doing it in direct sunlight, you're doing it in that indirect sunlight so that you get a good reading.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to start. It'll match it close to another Dunn Edwards color. It's not a custom match like we can do in the store, but it's a pretty good place to start with hundreds of color options out there.
And, if you're always been one of those folks, it's like, I wanted a different color anyway. That's a great time to, all right, let's make it a different color then,
Absolutely.
Sure. But again, come by to Builders Do It Center. They're on South Main. You can't miss it. And like I said, the more information you bring with you, the easier it makes for your folks to kind of guide them towards the right products or the right applications they need to do stuff. So, like I said, take those pictures, try out the Dunn Edwards app, bring samples of the stucco, and even if you got other problems not related to stucco, if you're hanging doors this weekend or whatever you're doing, if it's in your home or outside your home, there's someone at Builders that can guide you on what to do with it.
Absolutely.
So. Very good.
So,
anything else we missed, Justin?
I have two little other things I wanted to mention. One, I'm going to give a little plug. We have a new loyalty program.
Okay.
So if you've shopped with us in the past, or if you've never shopped with us, come and see us. We've created a program called Best Rewards.
Okay.
And if you're familiar, many other retailers, I know Albertsons here in town has a lot of grocery stores have a rewards program. Well, ours is based on earning points. And when you earn 250 points, you get a $5 reward in the mail. We're also going to send you a birthday reward and some other special offers from time to time. And you earn at least a point per dollar spent in our stores. Now, some items are worth more. Paint's a great example. We're going to give you 4 points for every dollar you spend on paint.
Okay.
So come and see us. It's a real quick form. You fill it out. We'll give you a key tag for your phone with your number, or we can look you up by your phone number, and you can start getting rewarded for what you're buying anyways. So
cool.
The other thing I wanted to mention very quickly is I wanted to give a little preview of our show. Not next week, but I believe the week after.
2 weeks.
Two after. That's right. We're at the right part of the month for that. So we're going to go a little bit off topic here. So we're not going to. I don't want to talk about construction specifically. I want to talk a little bit about trade education.
Okay.
One of the things, I just got back from the International Builders Show, and one of the big themes of the Builders Show this year is a movement to really recognize the craftsmen in our society and to try to bring some value back to trade education in our schools, and recognizing the things that so many of our tradespeople do, and try to bring more kids into that, because there's so many great opportunities for them in the construction trades, and it's such a fulfilling career. So
Sure.
we're going to talk a little bit about trade education and some
Okay.
opportunities there,
Perfect.
and some things you can do if that's something that's important to you.
Sure, the route to take if you're interested in that. You want to learn
Absolutely.
to be, it's just like anything else. We talk about college and all that. The trade school, these are the same places you learn those crafts that folks have made very prominent careers doing. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, very good. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And we'll see you in a couple weeks, and we'll talk education here in
Yes.
2 weeks.
Yes, we will be much educated once we're done.
Very good. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.